Okay, so we're in the next part now, and we're still busy talking about this thing. So please go check out the previous part to gauge your bearings, right? So, this thing with my ex-boyfriend, I'm still busy talking about it. And I was in my previous part explaining how it is that he threw everything away because he just would not allow himself to appear to be listening to me. And this was because of influences that came from his friends who were basically telling him, you're whipped and you need to basically put your foot down. And this was not just his friends that were telling him this, it was his dad. Just a climate of irresponsible male energy that is trying to tell a guy that has found a good thing that you need to basically show your strength to a woman by refusing to listen to her sometimes, even when she has all of your best interests at heart. I told you guys that the exes that my ex had prior to me were these gold-digging women that didn't care where money came from insofar as it was coming, and they did not care if my ex basically threatened his career, or not career, but his life, his future, by committing crimes in order to appease these women, because for them it was like, I don't care where the money's coming from insofar as it's coming. And when he met me, I was like, no, we're not going to do dishonest gains, right? So we moved in together. I told you guys about that because my mom decided that she's going to kick me out. Like I said, at that stage he had already quit drinking, so alcohol was not the issue. I was the one that every so often was like, downing a glass of wine. But the way that my ex-boyfriend was, guys, that's where, when we moved in together, I believe that's when witchcraft started coming at us from his friends, from jealous friends. Maybe on my side, women, but my relationship with my ex-boyfriend was broken up more than anything by his boys, by males, more than my jealous friends, more than anybody on my female side. The only female that basically was used in this regard, and even then it's because she was elevated or pedestaled by bad boys, bad men, was this lilac woman that basically passed him up prior to us coming together. And now that we were together, she started acting a fool. But there was a season when she calmed down because my ex would tell her, my girlfriend ain't happy. And this chick not only calmed down because she was being told, because my ex told her, she also started to calm down because other women, by the grace of God, in her life, told her, basically, like, who'd have thunk it, right? Her own friends were like, I said her name was Pinky, right? They were like, Pinky, you and Nonti could have been together, but you chose not to be with him. You knew what you wanted and you passed him up. Now he's got a girlfriend and you are literally agitating her. How would you feel if you had a man and somebody from his past life kept on calling him and asking for money and all these things? This guy has a woman. Let him go. Like, you're being unfair. Like, everybody cared about him because, like I said, they all grew up together and literally told me. So they were like, you're being unfair because you would not love him. So be honest with yourself at this point. Do you want him? If you want him, then by all means go and take him from her. But you have to love him. Otherwise, let him go, because he tried to love you and you were like, he's not enough for me. You knew what you wanted. You still know what you want, and it's not him. So leave him to be happy. His friends, her friends, girlfriends basically told her that because you leave him alone. He's our boy too, and you're gonna be stringing him along. You're unfair. You're gonna want to still go and get whatever kind of man that you want, and then he's going to be just lingering around being strung along by you. You are separating him from a union, a relationship that he is happy with, and the woman that he is with seems to be content with everything that you were not content with. So and her girlfriends were not the only ones that constantly told him this, because she would always go to them and complain and be like, and I know this because my ex, like, I get a kiss among her friends was another girl, right, that was sort of kind of one of those, a girl that gets along with all the guys type thing. And she would tell my ex that, hey, I said her name was Pinky, right? I was chatting with Pinky the other day, and she rocked up to me and she was busy complaining that your girlfriend is basically cutting her out of your life because she can't stand her when she calls you. But I told her that, but you didn't want him. So my ex-boyfriend relayed these stories to me because one of her friends told him that she went to them and complained that I am literally trying to sever their friendship, and then her girls made it clear to her that, but you know that you and Nonti can't be friends because y'all have a history and y'all have feelings for each other, but you're the one that don't want him. So you are literally like playing. Lena, personally, if I was a girlfriend of Nonti, I'd be annoyed with you. So her friends basically, when she thought that they would give her support, they rather, especially because they still cared for him, they were all friends, they had a mutual interest in both their well-being, they rather were honest instead of just run with the narrative of bunasti njefela, allowing an unfortunate woman to constantly get hurt by this woman's insanity. So that's why this chick calmed down. She not only was the only one that she was not only her friends that said this to her, but also her sister of which was also friends with my boyfriend, type thing. And her sister would be like, hey, my sister told me that she got issues with your girl, but I told her that, but like, this is the girlfriend, leave the situation alone, because you didn't want him, you were the one that passed him up, let the guy be happy. This guy in his people circles, like a man that knows love from his friends and family, and then he goes and takes it away from a woman. Like, proper, you're rude and you're mean and you're unacceptable. He took love away from my life with all of his witchcraft. But anyway, Naradwa, my ex, like a lot, like his friends loved him, his family loved him. He was just a very loved, spoiled brat of a guy. I guess that's what happens when you're a spoiled brat. You easily hurt other people and you don't take into consideration how painful it is to have everybody neglect you, abandon you, and not care for your well-being. Anyway, whatever. So everybody cared for his well-being to a point of counseling his, this woman with whom he had a thing, away from continuing to hurt us, to a point where her own sister was also was pretty much honest with her. So basically her sister took my side. Okay, very well. Like I said, I met the sister first, right, before I finally met this woman. So this chick calmed down, but like I said, for 5 seconds she heeded the counsel of everybody for 5 seconds, but it didn't last. But during the time when she was like quiet, this chick just looking into the relationship and leaving my ex to be, and this was another thing. I believe these women told her, if you want him, go and shapa Karabo with the stina, go and cause Karabo to lose her man, then take her. And the way that she was so disinterested in a man that did not have wealth, a lot of money, she passed up even the opportunity to shapa me with a stina. And there was a time when she could have shaped me with a stinner, but it came to a point in her life when she no longer could shape me with a stinner, because my ex at that stage had so many near misses, so many calls with losing me, that he realized that, no, I'm sorry, this is it. If I was once confused, now I'm not. How long did it take for my ex to get there? Out of our 4.5-year relationship, I think 2 years. It took him 2 years to finally realize that even if that other girl were to come and be like, I want you and I'm ready for love, he would not go for her. He would much rather choose me. And the thing that made my ex finally put his foot down concerning this woman was the second time that we basically stayed together. All right, because we stayed together for the first time and then the second time, and the second time was so, oh goodness, like, oh yeah. Anyway, let's get into that now and talk about it. Right, we moved in together. My ex at that stage, this chick is calm, right, because she's been told relax, but his boys aren't calm. So women sort of kind of helped my cause along, women belonging to this female, and I don't believe any women came up against my relationship. If they did, I don't know nothing about it. Anyway, whatever. But who did come up against my relationship were his friends. When we lived together, the monster that came out of my ex, ay guys, the monster that came out. Like I said, he wasn't even drinking alcohol, so we can't even be blaming spirits of inebriation over there. My ex, oh guys, yeah, see, the problems that women have, I mean, I never thought I would have them, because this guy was so loving. When they live with a man, like, you don't come home all weekend long, or you come home in the wee hours of the morning, or guys, all that, I experienced it within the first week, and I am not lying to you. Within the first week of us living together, my mom was the one that helped us find honchis to buy furniture. We had to take out loans and everything. And so therefore, when we moved in, it was a fully furnished apartment. It's like it was a trial run for marriage, and that was at that stage I realized that I'm sorry, no, we have to break up permanently, because if at all I were to find myself married to you and these will be my experiences in marriage, whoa, this is no, like, I can't. Within the first week, my ex disappeared for all the weekend coming. That whole weekend I was still working at the bank. Oh guys, I was working at the bank, and the bank gave me that job, the training job. Like I told you that sometimes I had to travel on the Saturday. So remember, in the beginning of the relationship, we used to see each other every day because we worked in close proximity to each other. So I imagine that my ex would be happy to see me every day. Like, living with him ain't nothing, it ain't a thing, I imagined, because he would have me finally every single day. Nah, it changed. Like within the first week. That's why this was witchcraft. It had to have been, because the changes were not gradual. It's not like he suddenly got tired and realized, oh, I don't want to live with a woman. He did want to move in with me. And he told his parents, I know you are disquieted, but I'm doing this. One, I love Karabo. I am one day going to end up with her. I'm going to marry her. And on top of that, I really don't want to be in an environment where people are always crying, because it just brings me down even more. So allow me to mourn from a distance where I don't have to constantly face this. I will visit you guys literally every week. It's not like I'm leaving. You'll hear from me daily. At some point you would have had to let me go. So please do that. So this was a man that was determined to make this work. And yet within the first week, he broke me into a million pieces. Lease elastile. Yo, even 6 months, 3 months, 3 to 4 months. And we had a year's lease, and we had to cancel it within about 3 to 4 months. We almost lost the deposit, but thankfully the landlord was able to very quickly secure another tenant, so he gave us the deposit back. Yeah, no, I was done. And it was at the end of that stay with my boyfriend in that apartment that I was like, you know what? I am moving on to a point where I'm gonna even let myself fall in love elsewhere. We're getting there. First of all, in the first week, there was so much witchcraft operating in that apartment. It actually felt ominous. It actually felt dark. It felt like there was a dark cloud over that environment. The atmosphere was dingy, guys. It was dingy. We were arguing almost every night, and I wondered what the couple next door thought of us, because I think we were audible almost every night. He stayed out all weekend, right? In the first week of us staying together. Remember, this chick is gone. The Delilah one, not a problem yet. One weekend, he came back home on the Monday. Still working this job, go Netbank. Sometimes he would allow me to go. When I would go to like another province, I would stay there all week long. So I would imagine that my boyfriend would want to see me before I leave. He would literally wait for me to get in my car and drive to Mpumalanga, and then only come home and spend time alone all week long. And when I would come back to the apartment, it would be clear that some of his boys were there, because there would be cigarette butts snuffed out in the kitchen sink, pizza, ya papa, ekisileng, a pot of pap that I had left on the stove when I left to basically go to work. It wouldn't even be in the fridge, but it would be fuzzy with mold on the stove. And this dude stayed in the apartment in those conditions. Now, allow me to explain to you my ex-boyfriend, he was a neat freak more even than me. He was the kind of person to use the bathroom and wash his hands twice, never mind once, with soap. He was a neat freak. Do you understand? His shirts during sexual relations, my clothes would be thrown on the floor, but his would be folded and stuff. His shirts were always crisp. His jerseys, everything about my ex was just better. I was not a domestic queen in keeping the house, yet he was better than me at that. The kind of guy that would never give you problems with bringing down the toilet seat. You would never have issues with like urine spots on the toilet seat. None of that. My ex has so much decorum. He was like, yo, wait, I'm a perfect guy. Yeah, no, that was him. Oh, he had etiquette. It was on fire and on fleek. Everything about that guy was an I dotted and a T crossed. Okay, so for me to come back with the apartment looking like that, bed linen basically looking like he hasn't done the bed all week, like he just woke up and went to work without even doing the bed, not like him. That is how you know a man is under witchcraft curses. He was living in a house that was so full with demons. It was teeming at the folds with demons, such that he could not even keep it. It was dirty. Demons love a dirty environment. He left every dust particle exactly where I had left it when I went to go to work and work elsewhere for a week. And even during the week, from the distance where I was, we insisted on speaking every day because it's what we were used to, but he was cold. He was short. He wanted to get off the phone fast, almost as if though really he just wants to focus on something else. I don't believe he ever brought a woman over when I was gone, right? But he certainly did bring some pretty untidy men that messed up with my house. And like when I came back, it was dirty, guys. For me, it was like, but this is not you. Then to like finally, boy, like this is not you. You've got your issues, you've got your problems. You know, sometimes you lack ambition. Like you've got problems, like everybody does. But this is not your core issue. Untidiness If anything, you are better than me. You are far more kept than I am. Like I told you, I don't even know how in the world under heaven my ex's shirt and pants and everything would either be hanging on a chair or folded after sexually relations while my clothes are scrunched up in a corner. I didn't even know how he got that done, but he managed to get it done. Maybe it's because after fornication you feel sleepy, and then during sleep the dude probably stood up and like and then went back to bed. Because he did not want to ruin his clothes. He didn't want his clothes to be irrecoverable, basically, from ruination. Yeah, no, a man like that. A man who, when we were even living together, the section of the wardrobe where I put my clothes, it's like my clothes were just kind of put there. Like I would fold them very lackadaisically and just kind of throw them all through. Like we're getting neat rows. One shirt per hanger, type setup thing. Shoes next to each other, 2 by 2. This is not the kind of man to leave a house looking like that, not even in the slightest. And I would come back and this would be the house and I would not understand what in the world is happening. But at the time I didn't understand spiritual war. I was lost. I didn't know this was witchcraft. I just thought this is rubbish. And this guy, it doesn't want to live with me. And this guy is literally sabotaging this thing that we are doing. This guy is a menace. Like, it's that basic. No, we're not doing this. If at all this is how he lives with me, and in the first week he displays himself so wicked, how in the world under heaven am I ever going to be happy in a marriage? Like, if this is headed for marriage and this is what my marriage is going to look like, I don't want a house like this. I don't want a house this untidy. I don't want a house that's going to just be left in jalo when I go for a business trip for like a week and I come back and my husband has been home all week. My kids are going to drown in their own vomit, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Yo, guys, like I said, 4 months. We argued a lot. We, like, almost every guys, during the time when we were living in this apartment, I don't know how many times, because we were living together. It was not so easy for us to just, it was not so easy for me to just keep on dumping him, to like be like, look, it's over. Because now we were living together. But I remember one time we were sitting, go stepsing. It was a duplex on the staircase facing down. And he was sitting next to me. And yeah, we had stopped. We had brought our voices. Well, my ex was never one to raise his voice. Usually was me, right? So I was like, my voice had calmed down and now we were just sitting next to each other. And I said to him, you do know that this relationship cannot work, right? We're gonna end up not together. It can't work because look at the situation. And he just like, with his face down, he nodded. He was like, yeah, no, it can't work. My ex-boyfriend never ever would have agreed to that at some point along the way in our relationship. Like I told you, every time we'd break up, he'd be like, karabo, no. Like, it doesn't make sense. He would say it doesn't make sense. And yet this time around, I was talking to him in this apartment that was full of demons that was sent to us by his friends. And I was like, you know this can't work, right? I mean, come on, it's obvious, it's clear. Because here it is that we can't live together. And he's facing down and he's like, it can't work. It can't work. The next day, I guess we were still holding hands, making out, whatnot. But he, for the first time in his life, agreed that we have to break up. Something my ex had never done up until that stage. Yo, guys, yazi, mbuloi. It's a real thing. This happened perhaps like a year and a half or something into our relationship. This whole experience, right? Yeah, about a year and a half, maybe 2. And for the first time, he was prepared to let me go. That's what witchcraft does. And he was also very sad when he said that. Like, but I said the next day we were like back together again, basically just trying to make it work. It lasted 4 months. One time, okay, so how it is that we ended up moving out of there. That house was so full of demons. I remember one time we had like a get together drinking session with friends, blah blah blah. Everybody was there, and there were these random 2 females that came along with some other people, and I knew these 2 females. My ex knew them from long ago, blah blah blah. My ex and everybody left to go buy alcohol, even though he wasn't a drinker. And during the time when they were gone, they left me with these 2 females, and they were trying to recruit me into lesbianism. It's like Lendlu, guys. I couldn't even go into the garden at the back. The house itself was not haunted or whatever, but it's like our union in that space was doomed from the get-go because of witchcraft that was practiced by some people. I couldn't go into the garden at the back because I was scared of the grass, and like I imagined frogs and snakes were crawling in there, even though they used to mow the lawn every week, the complex maintenance type thing. We sat in that garden that I was scared to go out into, that I had never seen the outside of up until that date, and we sat on camp chairs outside there while I was having a conversation with these 2 girls. These 2 girls knew one of my ex-boyfriends, so we spoke about that ex-boyfriend briefly, following which we were then talking about other things. And then next thing, out of nowhere, like a bat out of hell, they started talking about what they would do to my body, how they would satisfy me in a way that my boyfriend just could not quite hit the mark. And I could not understand how we went from talking about my ex and life from the past and us having gone to high schools in the same neighborhood to now I'm being recruited to be a lesbian or a bisexual. They were inviting me into a threesome. Yazi, I was so uncomfortable. But I did not want to offend these ladies. I couldn't wait for my boyfriend to come back from wherever he was at with the people that he had gone to buy booze. I couldn't understand which level taking about lana. But the demons in that environment was so active that these women, whatever nefarious spirit of lust and sexual perversion in that regard was already operating in them, they decided to very inappropriately literally highlight it, raise it, bring it to the forefront in a woman's home where she lived with her man. I don't even think these women would have done that. And yet in that house, in that yard, they decided to recruit me into lesbianism. All I did was smile and nod until they left. And I don't even think I told I did. I told them, I was like, do you know, or let's say the two girls' names was Tebohole Lindy. I was like, do you know that Tebohole Lindy basically invited me into a threesome with them? Never mind you. They were like, they even went on to describe to me how much better they would be at doing stuff to me than you ever would be. And my boyfriend just basically laughed. He laughed, like he received it like it was a joke. But for me, it was eerie, it was creepy, and I was so disquieted ever since that day with what those women did that I felt dirty. I felt like there was something very spiritually wrong with that space. But like I said, I was lost. All I could do was just discern. But my discernment was off because there was no Holy Spirit in me. However, the whole time that I was in that apartment, something ominous was happening, and I know that the issue was not that apartment because ultimately my ex and I tried again. We tried again to live together because we actually wanted to be together and to test if at all we can one day be a married couple. We tried again and it didn't work again. But the thing that made me finally cancel the lease, unbeknownst to my ex, and I basically told him he's got a month to get out because I moved out. So the lease lasted 4 months. I moved out in month 3, headed towards 4 for the last month, and he was the one living there all by himself. He was living in that apartment all by himself. He could have gone home to his parents and that place be empty until it runs its course. Instead, he stayed there by himself. There was something so evil about that environment. I don't even know why my ex stayed there. And the thing that made me decide not to leave him was because of seeing how broken he was by the time that month ended. He was he was finished. It's like he was emptied by whatever was going on in that apartment, and I could not leave him. I could not finish this thing off. I couldn't leave him in that state. One, he was again mourning his brother. It was a very painful time for him. And secondly, like I said, that environment drained him. Something ate him alive in that place, and the emptiness that I picked up in him made me basically just hug him back and be like, okay, we're gonna stay together, but we can't live together, and we're gonna make this work. But before we even got to that place, something happened. So when we were living there, man, the thing is, South Africa, I don't know when under heaven you're gonna repent, right? One day my mom came to that apartment and asked for my bank card, right? Because she was loaning money from me, and she asked me for my PIN code, and I gave it to her very audibly. And my ex-boyfriend was there listening. I did not care because I trusted him. My mother then left. My mom ultimately brought my bank card back, but a week later my ex-boyfriend disappeared from the apartment with my bank card and literally squandered over an entire weekend 2,500 rands from my account. What the heck, guys? This is I told you guys that my ex had a criminal streak, right? Yeah, that was him doing criminal things, now stealing money from his own girlfriend. And that weekend that he disappeared, he was with the friend, the apartment Yako Stubens Valley, the whole weekend, and he was busy literally swiping my card. I had to stop it at the bank. That's the only way that money would not stop leaking out of my bank account. I went to the police to open a case. I was so mad and I was not thinking straight, and the police officer woman there was like, oh sure. She literally was like, are you sure you want to open a case against your darling? She was like, are you sure you want to open a case against your boyfriend? Because I've seen these couples coming in fighting all up in our grill, and then next thing the woman wants to drop the charges because she's in love again. As when that woman said that, I got so irritated and I walked out of the police station and I called his mom. I was like, ma, I'm going to arrest your son because he's busy swiping my card, he's committing fraud and all these things. The mother begged me. She was like, yo Karabo, I've already got one son in jail, please, don't send my kid to prison. I'm sorry, I'll pay you back. The mother was busy pleading and begging with me, and I told the mom, your son must pay me back every last cent he took. I have frozen my card. For your sake, I'm not going to open a case against him, but I'm enough. Frankly, if that woman had not stayed my hand, the police officer woman who was like, are you sure you want to arrest your darling? In South Africa. If that woman just allowed me to open a case at the police station, my ex would have been found, he would have been located, he would have been arrested, he would have had his mugshot taken, he would have had his fingerprints taken, and he would have been in the system. Whether or not I dropped the charges, he would have been a done man. So basically the Lord, I believe, stood in the gap, in the sense that he caused a woman that had seen one too many such cases rocking up on some, I want him arrested. She was basically talking about domestic violence cases of some women that were beaten blue and black, and they wanted to arrest their husbands or their boyfriends, but then they dropped the charges later, and after, however, not before the police had wasted a whole bunch of resources on that. So her question, are you sure, was based on her experience with dealing with such cases, and I stormed out because something in me convicted me that since I always break up with this guy, and every time we break up we always make up, I am very highly unlikely going to stick to my guns in this regard, and frankly I'm rooting for his future, so I would not want to give him a criminal record. But he is, like I said, he had a criminal streak, and he was the kind of guy to basically find himself in such hot water, do you understand? Anyway, whatever, so I decided not to do it, but then I and I calmed down. He ultimately did pay me back every last cent, but when he came back, that was when I basically told him, we're done, it's over. And I took my stuff and I moved back to my mother's house. She allowed me to come back. I told her, please, I just need like a month or two, then I'll move into my own apartment. My mother was like, fine. I moved back home. I canceled the lease with the landlord. And then I was like, you can do whatever you want, but you have got up until the end of, let's say the month was July, you've got up until the end of July to get out of this place. He could have gone back home to his mother's house, because it was, I imagine, warmer there, more homely, more loving, but instead he stayed in that apartment the whole entire month while I was staying at my mom's, and we were broken up. We were, the whole month, it was over, we were done, and I was just finished and glad with him. And it was during this month that another guy, when I was in the learnership, Go Liberty Life, the very beginning of my career, there was this dude that just had these massive feelings for me. He had a mad crush, but I didn't like him at the time. He had dreadlocks, nang bora. I don't like men with hair, I don't like dreadlocks, I just like my men cleanly shaven, and he was all like spazzing over me and stuff, but I didn't like that he had dreads. We had stayed in contact, the crew, learnership. Every so often we send each other emails, right? And we sort of kind of, we're still together type thing that way. And this dude would search out my name in the email list and find me, and then he would email me personally, and he had been doing that for a while, right? Like, he would like slide into my DMs and talk to me personally and privately, and I would always just be like, I'm not interested, I am in a relationship on top of that, plus you and your dreadlocks, right? Like, I'm not feeling you. But then one day he how did I find out that he got rid of them dreads, rid of them dreads? Oh, Facebook. Yes, I believe it was Facebook. We became, yes, it was absolutely Facebook. He invited me as a friend on Facebook, and I mean, he was my friend, but a friend that wanted more from me, definitely, type thing. So when he invited me on Facebook, I accepted, and then I saw on his Facebook, his pics, I noticed that he cut his dreads off, and I was like, whoa, did you grow into your head? Like, look at you, look so handsome. You know how when Shomla Dandala cut his dreads off, he just became so hot overnight, when before he just looked weird, like a little girly man? Yeah, no, this dude was like a Shomla on fire. I was like, whoa, he's looking so good. He's looking so good. And on top of that, he, like, had done well for himself and everything, and I was struggling with this guy that was like really unambitious, and I was trying to get him to get to a certain point, and this dude just kept on hammering and really just insisting with me on some, hey, let's talk, let me take you out for lunch and what have you. So I was like, I don't know, like, whatever. Because I found him cute on Facebook, I allowed him to I allowed him to get my number, type thing, and we started to talk and what have you. And he, lo and behold, it ironically appeared that he lived not so much in my neighborhood, but not far from it. Like, he was also in the west of Johannesburg, like whatever. Yeah, so he was staying there, and so he was not far, and he was sharing an apartment with like his friend type thing. They were both renting. So I was thinking, okay, here is a guy that is only 2 years older than me. My ex was 4 years older older than me. And ever since we parted ways from the learnership, he's made something of himself. He was a supervisor in some environment of a technical nature, or I don't know, whatever. He was a boss guy. Like, he had subordinates under him. And I remember just thinking, I'm sick and tired of trying to help a man grow that won't grow. Here's a man that already is kind of growing, right? He has got what is this? He's got his own car, and while it's not his own apartment alone, he's sharing with a friend. He nonetheless does have his own place where I could always be with him. On top of that, he's doing well in his career, and he's only likely going to get better. And on top of that, he's really handsome. He's actually grown into himself, type thing. He's cute, and you know, I don't have to be dealing with dreadlocks anymore. Like, no, now, okay, a couple of months back, not months, yeah, when we were already living in this apartment, my best friend and her boyfriend organized a trip to KZN. Right, like or whatever, December, and my ex and I went basically as a couple. It was like a whole couples retreat, and there was this one random occult guy there, right, that was the friend of my girl's man, that was a numerologist, and he was basically doing readings on all of us, right, that were there, and this guy said of me and my friend that we are materially strong, and then he said something about my friend that was quite disturbing. I won't like pretty much say what in the world under heaven that it was. But then he looked at me, and he also said to my ex that he appears like the kind of person that would find himself in prison for a crime that he didn't commit. Like, I was like, what in the world? Knowing that my ex had a criminal streak, I understood that that is not something that is highly unlikely. At this stage, I'm not saved. So divination, psychic readings, and all that stuff, I'm not actually thinking this is demonic. So I'm just listening to this eerie guy basically predict our futures. And I was like, this prognosticator up in our grow. But the thing that he said literally came to pass, okay? Like all these years down the line, and it's eerie. And it is the thing that caused my ex-boyfriend to chart on a course of starting to bewitch the living daylights out of me, because he was scared to lose me based on a prognostication of a diviner, of a numerologist. So this guy told my ex that he is spiritually strong, but not materially, and indeed at the time it was true. He did not have much in comparison to basically all the other guys in the room, but he was also just a much better guy. I don't know if he was spiritually strong, because okay, my ex was not a Christian, neither a person into ancestral worship or any of that stuff, but one thing that he used to always do every single day was send me devotionals. He, like, literally every day my ex sent me Christian devotionals. So he was a professing Christian, but of course not a practicing one. He was lukewarm in a way that I was just cold. So I'd be like, thank you, baby, for giving me these lovely messages about this Jesus that I am yet to know. Okay, cool, very beans. So we used to pray every night, like before eating lunch, dinner, whatever. We had a form of godliness that denied the power thereof, but he was more spiritual than me. He had also grown up in the church, but then his parents stopped going and all that jazz. However, his family was very much into ancestral worship and all that stuff. So I suspect that this guy, this diviner, was talking about that facet of him. I don't think, however, he was practicing witchcraft, and I will explain to you why. He once was dissed this one friend of his had a girlfriend named Lamuloya, and like the stories that this guy would tell my boyfriend was scary. They were eerie, like, you know, horror movie type stuff, thanks to the experiences that he was endured under from his girlfriend. And he used to laugh at this girlfriend of this guy for being as evil as she was. Like, he would wake up in the middle of the night and she would be staring at him doing a ritual. And this guy would be like, yo, ndoda, mvuke they say the girlfriend's name was Tumi, and Utumi me ungibukile ndoda aphizi. Ayenza something, mina wangithusa ngajumpa ndoda. Like, this guy used to tell us stories for days of his girlfriend's witchcraft, and he never left her, and everybody was like, wow, I'm sure you get, why don't you leave? And his response would be, I won't pay attention. So, because my ex and I used to always laugh at and his friend that had a witch girlfriend that was holding him hostage with this power, I literally under heaven never imagined that my ex-boyfriend would ever allow himself to be like Udumi, right? That was like busy with her man, and her man just would not leave. He just gave us stories. So given how much we used to laugh at that, I never would have imagined my ex would ever turn to this dingy thing. Anyway, whatever. So I don't think he was practicing anything sangomari or satanic, right? Until this particular point. And his this prognosticator, this diviner, this numerologist, this psychic, whatever this man was, okay, this weird friend, they got my best friend's man, then said to my ex, looking him dead in the eye, he was like, you are materially not very strong, but you are spiritually very strong. So I don't know whether you were seeing the future or the present state or what's going on, or the ancestral worship roots of my ex, or the fact that he was raised in a Christian household. I don't know. And then he looked at me, and then after looking at me, he was like, yo, he kept on being like, whoo, hi, you must come tomorrow, and then I'll talk about what's going on with you tomorrow, because right now, hey, I can't, whatever it is that you are, and I was like, except I wasn't like, I was scared, right? Because he was scary. When you're not in Christ, there's into your tools. Anyway, whatever. And then he looks at my ex like dead in the eye, right, in front of everybody, and he is like, a very powerful man is one day going to give you a run for your money. At that stage, I was like, my ex looked like around on some, okay, whatever, right? I thought that he would forget about that. If anything, after we left that random guy's house, I told my ex, baby, I love you. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not the kind of woman to be with a man, like to leave you for a guy on a mali. You know that, blah, blah. I'm not. But you see, remember, my ex-boyfriend, guys, let's move to the next part because really I can't speak for too long.